We're going to now talk about warehousing. This is a big component. You have a lot of different moving parts of getting into the warehouse, and then you have a whole series of moving parts getting out of the warehouse. But then when you get in a warehouse, it's going to depend how big your operation is. I was talking to one supervisor, they had 56 different bays. Well, the bays then are backed up by an entire massive building, and the building is subdivided between the bays and between which areas that they're servicing, and they have to pay attention to how they're doing it. For instance, they have a direct place where they ship things to Atlanta, Georgia, but they also have an Atlanta hub where they ship things to, which is a separate entity that actually distributes things to different drivers there. And they also have the direct. So you have to pay attention to what you're doing. And there's a lot of moving parts. He was telling me also about the aspect that in the warehouse that they had just upgraded technology 8 months ago. So every forklift in the entire plant now has a pad on it so they can identify exactly where to go. Now you watch, you're going to see some technology jumps in the very near future as AI starts getting much more involved in the aspect of communicating to drivers and then eventually eliminating the drivers with automated forklifts. We'll see. The only thing is I hate to get run over by a forklift driven by a robot because there's nobody to sit down and talk to and say, yo, don't hit me. But that being said, we'll see what happens in the future. Warehouse capacities. It's not obvious to estimate the actual space required, but you're going to have to figure out the annual flow that's going to come into the warehouse. If it's a new facility, no matter what you have, there's going to be some changes in that flow after 1 year. You'll see changes happening. So normally you're better off designing for overcapacity than undercapacity. So be careful about the space that you're renting or leasing in the process as to how big it is. A lot of times you take a warehouse to set it up, you divide it by inventory of different parts or by different geographies. It depends how you're set up. And sometimes you actually set it up by both. So assume there's a regular shipment and delivery schedule. That's gonna help dictate your required storage space by about approximately twice that amount. So practical considerations, really open it up and have 3 times the amount, and then you'll see what happens. You can do an evaluation later on, and hopefully you might have some additional space, but maybe not. Maybe you're going to fill all that and need even more. It just depends, especially if it's a brand new distribution point. A couple things, geographical and infrastructure conditions. My opinion, always have it close to a freeway. You want to have that in a perfect world, have it close to the intersection of 2 different freeways going 2 different directions. The ideal warehouse is located at an intersection of freeway, head north and south, and also east, west, or just one direction, whichever it may be. Natural resources, what's there, labor availability, that's huge. If you can't get trucks in and out of the facility, you're going to have trouble. Pay attention to the taxes, public interest, that so on, the service level, define service level. Where do you want it to be? When somebody places an order at that warehouse, do you want to have it 97%? Okay, so only 3% go unfulfilled. And then also that 3%, do you have a way of filling them from a geographically different warehouse? Now, that being said, if you can cover it, even if it's extra money for you as a company, it might be worth it to always have a 100% fill rate. If you can sit down and have another one, even if it's additional 30, 40 miles away, it might make it worthwhile for you as a company to pay attention to what that is. So look in that aspect of it. Decisions about number, size, location, that's going to have to impact on the firm for at least 3 to 5 years. Usually commercial leases, you're 10 years plus. So it depends how it's set up. That being said, a lot of it really is incorporating the MPV in the model. So you want to look at all the different aspects. Sometimes you want to look at the model, ensure that the data validation that's used to ensure that the data in the model accurately reflect the network design problems that you're facing. That being said, get the data, validate it. I always sit down and have somebody else go back and review some of the data again. That's not me or not part of the company. You're almost better having a consultant just proof it, just to make certain to bring something to the table that you may have overlooked, because this is a big financial investment. You're designing a facility that's going to be used for a number of years. Hopefully, it's going to be successful and actually increase your profitability. So it depends on reconstructing the current network configuration, how much movement you're going to have. Are you adding things that are helpful? And then that being said, how much traffic are you going to have where your location is? So once you're all done, does the model make sense? Is the data consistent with what you planned with what you're going to see on your mapping of the actual institution? Can the model results be fully explained? Did you perform a sensitivity analysis? Did you run it through a full-blown computer program to check out everything? Over 20 years ago, I had Chrysler was actually designing a factory. They came into the college and leased some of our high-tech computers that we had. They were just one step short of being a Cray computer. So with that, they designed the entire factory. They found that the robots were smacking each other around in the warehouse and everything else on the computer simulation. So they used it to space the robots better. They added more humans in there because they had too many robots physically in the space. So that being said, did they check it out? They initially had a 3-week lease on our computers. They extended to 2 months because they found so many difficulties. You need to have the same type of computer simulation to make certain that everything works, in sense to see it in hopefully some type of real good existing model. Once you have the data, optimize it. Mathematical simulations, simulation models, it just depends what you're going to do. The heuristics, there's a need for some exact algorithms. You want to have some optimization-based techniques. You're going to have a team doing this. This is not going to be just you. It's going to be a team. So don't feel that you have to carry the whole burden for this thing, because I promise you, by the time you're done, you're looking at a multi-million-dollar facility lease problem, and you're going to have a lot of people working on it to make certain everything is done right and checked, and you'll have a number of people in supervision watching it. So some of the simulation can include individual ordering patterns. What happens when somebody orders this? Specific inventory policies. What about hazmat? In the hazmat aspect of it, you're going to have a separate area for that, and then are going to have different type of equipment for that to handle it to make certain you don't have any spillage problems. And are you going to follow precise methodologies for loading and unloading? You're going to have separate trailers for that. It all depends how you're handling that, and the inventory movements inside the warehouse. How is things going from point A to point B, point A to point Q in the process? Are you going to have colliding different vehicles? What kind of traffic control you're going to have in the process as well? Simulation models, the only model really looks at your pre-spec logistics network and design. It makes sense to follow the two-stage approach. One, optimize the model to generate the number of least cost solutions at the macro level. You want to really focus in to optimize it exactly what's going to happen, and then also evaluate the solutions generated in the first phase. No matter what you do, once you establish your warehousing, you're going to probably tweak it within 3 months. So make that assumption that even some of the best laid plans, they need a little bit of tweaking and watching in the process. You always want to keep your optimization for your safety stock, the ease of access for your drivers to go pick up the different things, load them into the truck, keep your truck capacity, whatever it is, generally 28,000 pounds. So focus in as to what's going on with that and how are things flowing. And one of the biggest things when you're trying to do the solution, listen to the people doing the work. Don't make the assumption that the numbers on your computer, the numbers on your clipboard are always the best numbers. Sometimes you need to go out and talk to people, find out what's going on. Warehousing, the key things: access, geography, labor, taxes, interest, cost and physical size. And you really want to get the data and then plan on growth, plan for success in that aspect of it, and always upgrade, tweak as you go through the process, make it better, especially in that first year. Generally, you have about a 3-year window. The first year you establish the whole process, and then the second year you tweak it, probably with some major tweaks in the process. And the third year you kind of sit back and you look at it and say, it's finally there. And then you do a couple tweaks, and your fourth year you're there. It just depends on your cycle and your comfort level in warehousing to make certain you have the best facility for your use for your organization. Take care.